First Contact's folly. The grand assembly of galactic species prided itself on prediction. Their quantum computers could calculate the technological progression of a civilization down to the decade. Their sociological models could anticipate cultural shifts centuries in advance. Their anthropological AIs could determine a species' potential for advancement from a single transmission. Which was why High Speaker ENX 227 felt completely justified in assigning humanity's first contact to Junior Diplomatic Officer Vera. Fresh from the Academy of Sinological Relations, the human's primitive transmissions, filled with conflict, emotion, and inefficient storytelling, clearly indicated a species at least 3 centuries from meaningful contribution to galactic society. You can't be serious. Vera's crystalline form rippled with indignation, sending prismatic patterns across the High Speaker's office walls. First Contact is typically handled by senior diplomats with at least a century of experience. ENX 227's tentacles waved dismissively, their bioluminescent patterns indicating mild amusement. The models are quite clear, Vera. The humans are barely worth the fuel expenditure to reach their system. They still use chemical rockets, for void's sake. Their most advanced AI can barely play simple games. And their military transmissions, the High Speaker's skin shifted to the deep blue of condescension. They still maintain standing armies, with projectile weapons. Vera's crystalline surface fractured slightly in frustration. She had studied the human transmissions too, and something about them nagged at her. There was a pattern she couldn't quite grasp, a complexity the predictive model seemed to miss. But the speed of their advancement is completely normal for a young species, ENX 227 interrupted. Yes, they've moved from primitive flight to basic space exploration, quickly by some standards. But look at their social development. They still have nations, borders. They make entertainment about warfare. The High Speaker's tentacles shifted to the goal of formal instruction. This is a perfect opportunity for you to gain experience with minimal risk. Go, make contact, begin the century-long process of preparing them for eventual membership. The models give a 99.97% chance of a routine diplomatic mission. Vera wanted to argue further, but her crystalline form was already responding to her superior's dismissal, turning transparent at the edges. A junior diplomat's proper response to authority. As she headed to her ship, she reviewed the human transmissions again. The assessment AIs had focused on their military broadcasts, the parades, the training exercises, the carefully choreographed displays of what the humans called power projection. Primitive, wasteful, evidence of a species still bound by its evolutionary past. But Vera kept returning to other transmissions, the ones the AIs had dismissed as irrelevant. A human child combining complex mathematics with art to create something called musical fractals. A military vehicle repurposed as a mobile hospital. A weapons factory converted to build exploration vessels while maintaining the capability to switch back if needed. There was something there, something the models weren't seeing. Her ship, the Eternal Wisdom, was state-of-the-art, all smooth curves and efficient design, without a single offensive capability. The journey to Earth would take 3 standard cycles, traveling through the civilized lanes of Council space. Plenty of time to study more transmissions, to try to understand what was bothering her about the assessment AI's conclusions. 2 cycles into the journey, the Eternal Wisdom sensors detected an anomaly. A ship, running dark, no transponder signal. Pirates were theoretically impossible in Council space. The predictive models said so. The probability of encountering hostile forces was supposed to be 0.1%. Vera watched in horror as 3 more ships decloaked around her vessel. Her communications officer, a member of the silicon-based Logic Collective, announced with perfect calm, "Unknown vessels are demanding immediate surrender and transfer of all technological data. They appear to be using banned weapon systems." The crystalline diplomat felt her outer layer beginning to crack with fear. This wasn't possible. The models had predicted peace for at least another millennium. The Council's quantum computers had calculated that piracy was no longer a viable strategy in modern space. The predictions had been certain. Time to weapons range. 30 seconds, the communications officer stated, still perfectly calm. The Logic Collective prided themselves on their pure rationality, their freedom from emotional responses. Calculating survival probability. 0%. Recommended course of action. Surrender. Vera's form was about to shatter completely when a new signal caught her attention. A transmission on an ancient frequency the pirates weren't monitoring. A human frequency. The message was brief, primitive, using something called Morse code that the assessment AIs had dismissed as hopelessly outdated. Diplomatic vessel eternal wisdom. Hold position. Ki avail rawi incoming. Before Vera could process what that meant, before her ship's sensors could even register a new contact, space itself seemed to tear open. Later, she would learn that human scientists had discovered that space-time wasn't just curved, it could be folded. Later, she would understand how they had combined their primitive projectile weapon concepts with advanced physics to create something entirely new. But in that moment, all she could do was watch as a ship emerged from what looked like a hole in reality itself. It was angular, brutal, nothing like the elegant designs of council ships. Its hull was covered in what looked like primitive armor plating, but which somehow scattered her sensors' attempts to scan it. The pirate vessels immediately opened fire with their banned weapons, molecular disruptors that should have torn the human ship apart. Instead, the strange armor seemed to absorb the energy, and then, impossibly, redirect it back at the attackers. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 12 seconds. The human ship moved with impossible precision. Its primitive projectile weapons accelerated to relativistic speeds by gravity manipulation. When it was over, 3 pirate ships were disabled, 1 was captured, and Vera's understanding of humanity had been completely upended. A new transmission came through, this time in clear council standard. Diplomatic vessel Eternal Wisdom. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Unexpected Solution. Sorry about the dramatic entrance, but we've been tracking these pirates for weeks. Would you like an escort the rest of the way to Earth? Vera's crystalline form had finally stabilized enough for her to respond, though her voice still carried harmonics of shock. The models, the predictions, they said you were primitive. She could have sworn she heard amusement in the human captain's voice. Oh, we are, by your standards. We still love our inefficient art and our wasteful military traditions. We still tell stories about battles and keep weapons close at hand. But you know what else is primitive? Evolution, survival, adaptation, a pause. And we've gotten very, very good at all 3. As the UE's Unexpected Solution took up escort position, Vera began composing her report to the high speaker. The first line was already clear in her mind. The models were wrong. The humans aren't behind. They're just different, and we have much to learn from them. The assessment AOs would give her report a 99.99% probability of being rejected as emotionally compromised. For the first time in her career, Vera found herself hoping the predictions would be wrong again. The Silent Guardian. The Grand Assembly's reception hall was designed to overwhelm. Its crystal spires stretched kilometers into space. Its quantum-entangled displays showed real-time images from across the galaxy, and its gravity-manipulating architecture allowed representatives of 1,000 species to comfortably occupy the same space. But today, all eyes were fixed on the simple hologram floating above the central podium. Impossible. High Speaker X-227's tentacles flashed patterns of denial so intense that several photosensitive species had to activate their protective shields. The data must be corrupted. The humans cannot have developed phase shift technology. Our models show they're at least 5 centuries away from even theoretical understanding off. With respect, High Speaker, Vera interrupted, her crystalline form steady with new confidence. They didn't. What you're seeing isn't phase shifting. They call it active camouflage. It's based on principles so simple that our predictive models dismissed them as irrelevant. The hologram showed the UES unexpected solution seemingly vanishing into space. But unlike the sophisticated phase shift technology used by the Council's most advanced ships, this was something else entirely. The human vessel's hull was covered in millions of tiny surfaces, each capable of displaying a perfect image of what was behind it, updated in real time. They combined basic optical principles with advanced materials science, Vera continued. The pirates never saw them coming because they were looking for energy signatures, quantum fluctuations, all the things our technology uses. The humans just made their ship look like empty space, a representative of the silicon consciousness, their crystalline matrix pulsing with calculation patterns, spoke up. But the power requirements alone should make such a system impossible to maintain. The computational load of processing all those visual inputs and outputs. Captain Sarah Chen chose that moment to step forward. The human woman seemed absurdly small in the massive hall, her simple blue uniform almost austere compared to the biological and technological displays around her. "We don't use quantum computers for the calculations," she said, her voice carrying clearly despite her size. "We use something much more efficient, organic neural networks." The hall erupted in overlapping frequencies of disbelief. Inks 227's tentacles writhed in patterns of academic outrage. Organic computing is hopelessly inefficient. The error rates alone are exactly what we needed. Chen interrupted smoothly. "You see, perfect camouflage is actually easier to detect than imperfect camouflage. Nature taught us that. Just like how a predator's eye can spot a perfectly still object faster than one that moves naturally. Our organic computers introduce tiny, random variations that make the camouflage more believable, not less." The silicon consciousness representative's matrix pulsed with sudden understanding. "You deliberately engineered imperfection into your systems." "We copied it from nature," Chen corrected. "Just like how our weapons systems use principles we learned from watching everything from mantis shrimp to prairie dogs. The universe spent billions of years evolving solutions to problems we're still trying to understand. We just paid attention." Vera watched as the assembly tried to process this. Their entire civilization was built on the idea of moving beyond nature, of achieving perfect efficiency through technology. The idea of deliberately incorporating biological principles, of finding strength in imperfection. It challenged everything they believed. A new hologram appeared, showing the unexpected solutions battle with the pirates. The assembly watched in stunned silence as the human ship used its primitive technology to completely outmaneuver vessels that, by every measurement they had, should have been far superior. The pirates were using banned molecular disruptors, one of the elder species observed, their energy form flickering with concern. "Our models showed that no conventional armor could withstand such weapons." "Correct," Chen said. "That's why we don't use conventional armor. Our hull is covered in what we call smart matter, materials that can change their molecular structure in response to threats. When the disruptors hit us, our armor didn't try to resist the molecular breakdown. It adapted to it, channeled it, and turned it back on the attackers." The silicon consciousness representative's matrix was now pulsing so rapidly it was beginning to emit harmonic frequencies. "You weaponized entropy." "We weaponized adaptation," Chen corrected. "The same principle that let life evolve from single cells to spacefaring civilizations. We just sped up the process a bit." Vera's crystalline form vibrated with what she now recognized as excitement. The patterns were becoming clear. Humanity hadn't followed the predicted path of technological evolution because they'd never seen technology as separate from nature. They'd built their civilization not by trying to overcome their biological heritage, but by embracing and enhancing it. The assembly's quantum computers were still trying to calculate the implications when the emergency alerts began. Multiple ships, emerging from forbidden sectors of space, energy signatures that matched no known species. The pirate attack, it seemed, had been merely a preview of something much larger. High Speaker, Chen said, her voice now carrying a different kind of authority. I suggest we continue this discussion aboard the unexpected solution. We're about to have company, and I don't think they're here for diplomatic relations. As the assembly erupted in chaos, Vera noticed something strange. The human captain wasn't afraid. If anything, she seemed prepared. As if she'd been expecting this. As if humanity's demonstration of their capabilities hadn't been just about proving themselves to the Council. They'd been preparing for something else, something bigger. And now, Vera realized they were about to find out exactly what humanity had been getting ready for all this time. The models had been wrong about so many things. She could only hope they were wrong about what their calculations suggested was coming next. An extinction-level threat that no civilization, no matter how advanced, had ever survived. But then again, they'd never encountered a species quite like humanity before. Lessons in innovation. The interior of the UES unexpected solution defied every principle of warship design the Grand Assembly had ever known. As Captain Chen led the emergency evacuation group through its corridors, Vera's crystalline sensors struggled to process what she was seeing. Is that a garden? High Speaker X-227's tentacles twisted in confusion at the sight of a massive hydroponics bay where engineering systems should have been. Botanical Warfare Division, Chen explained, never breaking stride. Those plants aren't just for oxygen and food. Each species has been engineered to serve multiple functions. The flowering vines along the walls. They absorb radiation and convert it into bioluminescence. Those red bushes, they process carbon dioxide into oxygen 300 times more efficiently than their natural counterparts, and their root systems can be processed into emergency medical supplies. The silicon consciousness representatives matrix pulsed with calculation patterns, but the space requirement for organic systems is highly inefficient compared to synthetic alternatives. Unless, Chen smiled, you design your systems to serve multiple purposes simultaneously. She gestured to a group of crew members practicing what appeared to be a dance routine in a cargo bay. Those aren't just exercise sessions. The movements are mathematically designed to create specific vibration patterns throughout the ship's hull, helping to prevent crystallization in our smart matter armor. Before anyone could respond, the ship's AI spoke, but not in the precise, mechanical tones the assembly members expected. Its voice was warm, with subtle variations that made it sound almost alive. Captain, the unknown vessels are maintaining pursuit. Their energy signatures suggest technologies we've never encountered before. They appear to be evolving their attack patterns. The assembly members froze. Adaptive enemy tactics were supposed to be impossible. The models had proven that any sufficiently advanced civilization would move beyond the need for combat evolution. But Chen just nodded. Finally, I was wondering when they'd show up. She turned to her bewildered guests. We've been tracking quantum anomalies at the edge of known space for months. Signs of a civilization that took a very different path than either humanity or the assembly. The ship shuddered as it executed a series of maneuvers that should have turned its occupants to paste. Instead, the artificial gravity compensated perfectly, by using principles borrowed from how cats maintain balance during falls. You knew they were coming, Vera realized, her crystalline form vibrating with sudden understanding. The pirate attack, the demonstration of your capabilities. You were preparing us. Preparing you to understand. Chen corrected, leading them into what appeared to be a combination of an art gallery and a tactical command center. Because what's coming isn't just a threat to humanity or the assembly. It's something that could end all organic life in the galaxy. The walls of the command center were covered in what looked like abstract paintings. But as Vera watched, the patterns shifted, resolved into complex mathematical equations, then flowed back into artistic expressions. These are our tactical displays, Chen explained. We discovered that the human brain processes visual information more efficiently when it's presented in artistic forms. Our tactical officers can read complex battle data more quickly from these paintings than from traditional displays. The silicon consciousness representative's matrix was practically strobing with confusion. You've merged art and warfare. We've merged everything, Chen said. Art, science, nature, technology. They're all just different ways of understanding and interacting with the universe. The assembly separated them, tried to achieve perfection in each domain separately. We combined them, let them strengthen each other. A new image appeared on the artistic displays, a visualization of the pursuing vessels that somehow conveyed both technical data and an emotional sense of their alien nature. They were like nothing anyone had seen before, ships that seemed to be growing, evolving in real time. They're called the metamorphs, Chen explained, a species that took synthetic evolution to its logical extreme. They don't build their technology, they grow it. And now they've decided that organic life is an inefficiency that needs to be eliminated. High Speaker X-227's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of deep shock in their species. But our models, our predictions, couldn't see them coming, Chen finished, just like they couldn't see humanity's potential, because they were based on the assumption that progress only moves in one direction, away from nature, away from emotion, away from the primitive things that actually make us strong. The ship's eye spoke again, its voice carrying subtle undertones of excitement. Captain, the metamorph vessels are attempting to adapt to our camouflage systems. Their evolution rate is remarkable. Good, Chen said, shocking her guests once again. That's exactly what we wanted them to do. She turned to the assembly members, her expression serious. We're about to show you why humanity never abandoned its warrior traditions, why we kept studying the primitive arts of survival and adaptation. The metamorphs think organic life is inefficient. We're going to teach them just how powerful evolution can be when it's guided by consciousness and creativity. The artistic tactical displays shifted again, showing the unexpected solutions response to the metamorph's adaptation. But instead of trying to maintain its advantages, the human ship was changing too, not through synthetic evolution, but through carefully planned transformations based on millions of years of Earth's evolutionary history. Welcome, Chen said, to humanity's masterclass in survival. First lesson. True strength doesn't come from eliminating weakness, but from turning it into an advantage. The metamorphs are about to learn that the hard way. Vera watched in fascination as the displays showed the battle about to unfold. The assembly's models had predicted humanity would take centuries to reach this level of advancement. Instead, they'd taken a completely different path, one that combined the best of their primitive heritage with their drive to explore and innovate. The real question now was, would it be enough to save the galaxy from an enemy that had rejected everything organic life represented? The answer, Vera suspected, would rewrite every model and prediction the assembly had ever made. The hunter's game. The battle that unfolded in the void between stars defied every principle of combat the assembly had ever codified. The metamorph vessels, constantly evolving masses of synthetic matter, should have had every advantage. Their ability to adapt in real time, to grow new weapons and defenses instantly, had made them confident in their superiority over inefficient organic life. But the UES unexpected solution fought like something from Earth's primordial oceans, a predator that had evolved not just to hunt, but to outthink its prey. They're attempting to analyze our attack patterns, the ship's AI reported, its voice carrying the subtle inflections of excitement that still unsettled the assembly members. Their synthetic evolution is accelerating. Perfect, Captain Chen said, standing in the center of the artistic tactical display room. The flowing patterns around her showed the battle in abstract forms that somehow conveyed more information than conventional readings ever could. Initiate Protocol Darwin. Vera watched in fascination as the human ship's response defied every prediction model she'd ever studied. Instead of trying to counter the metamorph's adaptations directly, the unexpected solution began displaying seemingly random behavioral patterns. You're making mistakes, the silicon consciousness representative observed, their matrix pulsing with confusion. Your attack patterns are becoming less efficient, less predictable, Chen corrected. We're not making mistakes. We're introducing chaos into the system. The metamorphs evolve by analyzing patterns and optimizing their responses. So we're giving them patterns that lead nowhere, adaptations that solve problems we're about to make irrelevant. The tactical displays showed the metamorph ships growing increasingly complex weapons, developing countermeasures to attacks the unexpected solution had already abandoned. Their synthetic evolution was working against them, consuming resources to solve problems that no longer existed. In nature, Chen explained, the most successful predators aren't always the strongest or fastest. Sometimes they're the ones that can make their prey waste energy, make them respond to threats that aren't real until they exhaust themselves. High Speaker X-227's tentacles writhed with sudden understanding. You're not fighting them. You're hunting them. Now you're getting it. Chen smiled. Humanity never forgot the lessons our ancestors learned in Earth's jungles and savannas. Sometimes the best way to win isn't to overpower your enemy, but to let them overpower themselves. The unexpected solutions movements became even more erratic, its behavior seeming to defy not just military doctrine, but basic physics. The ship's garden engineering sections were pumping out clouds of engineered spores that the metamorph's sensors registered as threats, causing them to waste energy developing immunities to harmless particles. Captain, the AI announced, metamorph energy signatures are showing signs of strain. Their evolution rate is beginning to destabilize. They're trying to adapt to everything at once, Vera realized, her crystalline form vibrating with excitement. Every false pattern, every deceptive attack forces them to develop new countermeasures. They can't distinguish between real threats and deceptions, because they rejected everything that makes organic life resilient. Chen said, they saw our emotions as weakness, our creativity as inefficiency, our connection to nature as primitive. They forgot that those things evolved for a reason. The tactical displays shifted again, showing the metamorph ships beginning to lose cohesion. Their constant evolution had led them down too many dead ends, forced them to develop too many unnecessary adaptations. They had fallen into humanity's trap, a trap laid not with technology, but with understanding of natural selection itself. Now, Chen commanded, show them what real evolution looks like. The unexpected solution's hull began to change, but not in the random, desperate way the metamorphs had been transforming. This was different. Planned, coordinated changes that drew on millions of years of Earth's evolutionary history. The ship's smart matter reconfigured itself into patterns that mimicked everything from shark skin to beetle shells, each change serving multiple purposes simultaneously. These forms, the silicon consciousness representatives matrix pulsed with recognition, their biological patterns, optimized by millions of years of natural selection, Chen confirmed. While the metamorphs were busy developing complex solutions to simple problems, we were preparing to show them why organic life dominated our galaxy in the first place. The human chip's attack, when it came, was devastating in its simplicity. It didn't use exotic weapons or complex energy fields. Instead, it employed principles found in nature. The precision strike of a mantis shrimp, the coordinated attack patterns of wolf packs, the adaptive camouflage of octopi, all enhanced by human innovation, but rooted in natural wisdom. The metamorph ships, their synthetic evolution overtaxed and confused, couldn't adapt fast enough to this new threat that used their own complexity against them. One by one, their evolving forms began to break down, unable to maintain coherence under the strain of too many simultaneous adaptations. This is impossible, High Speaker X-227 whispered, their tentacles pale with shock. Our models showed that synthetic evolution would always triumph over organic limitations. Your models, Chen said quietly, made the same mistake the metamorphs did. They assumed that organic life's limitations were weaknesses to be overcome, rather than strengths to be understood and enhanced. As they watched the battle's conclusion, Vera understood something profound about humanity. They hadn't survived and thrived because they were the strongest or most advanced species. They had survived because they remembered what so many advanced civilizations had forgotten. That true strength comes not from rejecting one's nature, but from understanding and building upon it. The metamorphs had sought to transcend organic life. Humanity had chosen to embrace it, to learn from it, and in doing so had become something entirely new, yet wonderfully, powerfully natural. The assembly's models would need to be rewritten, but more importantly, their understanding of progress itself would need to change. The humans hadn't just won a battle, they had demonstrated a different path forward, one that didn't require leaving their nature behind to reach the stars. Evolution's edge. In the aftermath of the battle, the Grand Assembly gathered in what they had previously considered the most impossible location imaginable, the garden engineering bay of a human warship. Representatives from 1,000 species sat, floated or projected themselves among earth plants that were simultaneously producing oxygen, manufacturing medicines, and maintaining the ship's psychological health. High Speaker X-227's tentacles waved gently in patterns of deep contemplation as Captain Chen finished explaining humanity's long-term strategy. "You mean to tell us," the High Speaker said, "that this ship, this crew, this entire approach to space travel, it was all designed specifically to counter the metamorph threat?" "Not exactly," Chen replied, touching a flowering vine that immediately changed color in response to her biochemistry. "We designed it to counter any threat. The metamorphs were just the first to appear." The Silicon Consciousness Representatives Matrix pulsed with calculation patterns, but our models indicated no significant threats to galactic civilization for at least a millennium. "Your models," Vera interjected, her crystalline form steady with new confidence, were based on the assumption that all species would follow the same path of development as the assembly. The metamorphs proved that assumption wrong. "And they won't be the last," Chen added. "The universe is too vast, too varied for any single approach to survival to be sufficient. That's why we never specialized, never fully committed to any one path of development." The ship's AI joined the conversation, its voice emanating from what appeared to be a pattern of bioluminescent algae. "Humans call it the Swiss Army knife approach. Rather than optimizing for a single function, they prefer tools that can serve multiple purposes and adapt to unexpected situations." The assembly members watched as crew members moved through the garden, their activities seamlessly blending military drills with botanical care. A group of engineers was teaching children about spacecraft design while tending to plants that helped power the ship's systems. Scientists were conducting weapons research using principles derived from deep-sea creatures, while composing music based on the mathematical patterns of plant growth. "But this seems so inefficient," a methane-breathing elder said through their environmental suit. "Our civilizations achieved peace by specializing, by moving beyond the need for such redundancy." "Peace through strength is not the same as peace through avoidance," Chen countered. "We learned that lesson on Earth. The species that survived weren't always the most peaceful or the most specialized. They were the ones that could adapt, that could find new ways to survive when their environment changed." Vera moved closer to a display showing the defeated metamorph ships. Their synthetic evolution had created weapons and defenses of incredible complexity, yet they had been overcome by principles simple enough to be found in Earth's oceans and jungles. "They thought organic life was inefficient," she observed, "but they didn't understand that what they saw as inefficiency was actually flexibility. They evolved to counter specific threats, while humanity evolved to counter the unknown." "Exactly," Chen smiled. The metamorphs represented one possible future, the pursuit of perfection through synthetic evolution, but they forgot something crucial about natural selection. "What's that?" the High Speaker asked. "That the goal isn't perfection, it's survival." Chen gestured to the garden around them. "Every plant here, every animal we studied to design our systems, every biological principle we incorporated into our technology, They're all technically imperfect, but they're resilient, adaptable, and most importantly, they're alive. The ship's eye spoke again, its tone carrying a hint of humor. As humans like to say, perfection is the enemy of good enough. The assembly members watched as the garden's plants shifted and changed, responding to subtle environmental cues. The ship's hull, visible through transparent sections, continued to adapt and evolve, not randomly like the metamorphs, but in carefully planned ways that drew on billions of years of evolutionary wisdom. So what happens now? Vera asked, her crystalline form refracting the garden's light in complex patterns. Now, Chen said, we help the assembly understand what we learned long ago. That true advancement doesn't come from rejecting our nature, but from understanding it. That the greatest technology isn't the most complex or the most specialized, but the most adaptable. The High Speaker's tentacles moved in patterns of deep consideration. Our entire civilization is built on the idea of moving beyond our biological origins. To change that would be an evolution, Chen finished. One that doesn't reject the progress you've made, but incorporates it into something more complete, more resilient. Around them, the garden continued its multiple functions, maintaining life, powering systems, preparing medicines, and a dozen other tasks all happening simultaneously. It was inefficient by the assembly standards, redundant by their models. But it was alive, adaptable, and capable of meeting challenges its designers had never anticipated. The metamorphs won't be the last threat we face, Chen continued. The galaxy is vast, and it holds possibilities our models can't predict. But that's exactly why humanity maintains its primitive military, why we study nature alongside technology, why we refuse to specialize at the cost of adaptability. Vera's crystalline form vibrated with sudden understanding. You're not just defending against specific threats. You're defending against change itself. Not defending, Chen corrected. Embracing. Change is the one constant in the universe. The species that survive aren't the ones that try to prevent change, but the ones that learn to ride it, to shape it, to evolve with it. The assembly members looked around the garden engineering bay with new eyes. What they had seen as primitive redundancy, they now recognized as sophisticated resilience. What they had dismissed as inefficient, they now understood as admirably adaptable. Perhaps, the High Speaker said finally, their tentacles moving in patterns that hadn't been seen in centuries. It's time for the assembly to evolve as well. As the UE's unexpected solution continued its patrol of assembly space, its garden kept growing, its systems kept adapting, and its crew kept training for threats they might never face. They were inefficient by some standards, primitive by others. But they were ready, not for any specific threat, but for change itself. And in a universe where the only constant was change, that made them the most advanced species of all.
The Broken Promise Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the communications center of Lunar Station, staring at the holographic display that showed 3 burning worlds. Her jaw clenched as she watched the orbital feeds from New Brisbane, Terra Nova, and Kepler's Hope, 3 thriving human colonies, now nothing but ash and radiation. The official report from the Galactic Trade Consortium was already spreading across the networks. Tragic mining accident causes atmospheric ignition on 3 human worlds. Consortium offers condolences and emergency aid. But Sarah knew better. She had seen the real footage. Captain Marcus Rivera approached her, his face grim. "Admiral, the encrypted files from the consortium ship we intercepted are decoded. You need to see this." Sarah turned to the tactical display as Marcus activated the recovered data. The hologram showed a consortium command center filled with the tall, crystalline forms of the Vorthok leadership. Their leader, Prime Executor Zethkar, stood before a star map highlighting human space. "The infestation has grown beyond acceptable parameters," Zethkar's translated voice echoed through the chamber. The humans reproduce too quickly, consume too many resources, and ask too many questions about our operations. Phase 3 of the cleansing protocol begins tomorrow. Sarah's blood turned to ice. Phase 3. She had heard whispers of previous phases, but always dismissed them as conspiracy theories. Now she watched as another Vorthok stepped forward, displaying technical schematics, the defense codes they provided in exchange for medical technology have been integrated into our systems. Their planetary shields will shut down during the scheduled maintenance window. Our bombardment fleet will have exactly 47 minutes to complete the operation before their backup systems activate. The recording continued, showing detailed plans for the attack on the 3 colonies. They had used humanity's trust against them. The medical technology that had saved millions of human lives had been bait for a trap 3 years in the making. Dr. Elena Buscus, Earth's chief xenobiologist, joined them at the display. Sarah, there's more. The medical technology they gave us, it wasn't just healing devices. I've been analyzing the quantum resonance patterns, and they've been collecting biological data from every human who used their equipment. What kind of data? Sarah asked, though she dreaded the answer. Genetic maps, neural pathways, immune system responses, even emotional patterns. They've been studying us like lab rats, learning our weaknesses. Elena's voice shook with rage. They know exactly how to hurt us, how to kill us efficiently. General James Thompson, Earth's most decorated military leader, stepped out of the shadows, which is why they never expected us to hurt them back. Sarah turned to face him. What do you mean? The Prometheus Project, Thompson said simply. While they were studying us, we were studying them. Every piece of technology they gave us, every cultural exchange, every trade agreement, we've been building something they never saw coming. Sarah's eyes widened. She had heard rumors of Prometheus, whispers of a secret military project that went beyond anything in the official records. How many ships? 847 combat vessels built in the asteroid fields beyond Neptune. The consortium thinks we have maybe 100 operational warships. They have no idea what we're really capable of. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The consortium had just committed genocide against 3 human worlds, believing humanity would be too weak to retaliate. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Marcus pulled up another display showing the consortium's territorial map. Their primary worlds are clustered around the Vega system. Heavily defended, but they're not expecting a fleet our size. Intel suggests they have maybe 200 ships total. Their mistake, Sarah said coldly. They thought they were exterminating pests. Instead, they just woke up a sleeping giant. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, her expression fierce. There's something else. The biological data they collected, it works both ways. I've been reverse engineering their technology, and I found something interesting. The Vorthok have a critical weakness in their crystalline physiology, a specific frequency that disrupts their cellular matrix. Can we weaponize it? Thompson asked. Already done. Every ship in the Prometheus fleet is equipped with harmonic disruptors. We can literally shatter their bodies at the molecular level. Sarah felt a grim satisfaction. The consortium had played a game of extermination, but they had underestimated their target. Humanity had spent centuries fighting wars, adapting, surviving. The Vorthok had spent the same centuries as galactic merchants, growing fat and complacent. What about the other species in the consortium? Marcus asked. The Zilani, the Thrix, the Corthons. Most of them are client species, not true partners. Thompson replied, "Our intelligence suggests they're kept in line through economic dependence and fear. If we can break the Vorthok leadership, the others will likely surrender or switch sides." Sarah nodded, her mind already shifting to tactical planning. "We need to send a message that will resonate across the galaxy. This isn't just about revenge for 3 worlds. This is about showing every species out there that humanity will not be pushed around." She activated the fleet-wide communications system across the solar system, in hidden bases and camouflaged installations. 847 ships began their final preparations. The crews were volunteers, men and women who had lost family on the 3 burned worlds, soldiers who understood that this was about more than just military victory. "Attention, all Prometheus fleet commanders," Sarah's voice echoed across the encrypted channels. "This is Admiral Chen. 3 days ago, the Galactic Trade Consortium murdered 7 million human beings. They used our trust against us, turned our own defenses into weapons for our destruction. They thought they were eliminating a pest problem. Today, they learn the difference between pests and predators." The response was immediate. Ship after ship reported ready status. The fleet that had been built in secret, funded by hidden budgets, and driven by the paranoia of a few far-sighted leaders, was finally ready to reveal itself. "Fleet deployment begins in 6 hours, Sarah continued. "We jump to Vega system in 3 waves. First wave takes out their outer defenses and communication. Array's second wave engages their main fleet. Third wave secures the primary worlds. Remember, we're not just fighting for the dead on New Brisbane, Terra Nova, and Kepler's Hope. We're fighting for the future of humanity in this galaxy." As the communication ended, Sarah stood alone in the command center, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Vorthok leadership was probably celebrating their successful pest control operation. They had no idea that their actions had just united humanity behind a single, terrifying purpose. The Prometheus fleet began its departure sequence. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields for years emerged into open space. Stealth cruisers, battle carriers, and massive dreadnoughts formed up in attack formations. Each ship carried weapons that the consortium had never seen, technologies that humanity had developed specifically for this moment. Dr. Vasquez joined Sarah at the observation deck. "Do you think they'll surrender when they see the fleet?" Sarah shook her head. "The Vorthok are too proud, too convinced of their superiority. They'll fight to the end, which is exactly what we're counting on, and the other species. They'll watch and learn. Today, the galaxy discovers that humanity is not prey. We're the apex predator that was just pretending to be herbivores." The first wave of ships disappeared into hyperspace, beginning their journey toward the Vega system. Sarah watched them go, feeling a mixture of pride and cold determination. The consortium had started this war with an act of genocide. Humanity would finish it with a demonstration of power that would echo across the galaxy for generations. The journey to Vega would take 48 hours. 48 hours for the consortium to enjoy their victory celebration. 48 hours before they learned that their pest control operation had failed catastrophically. Admiral Sarah Chen turned away from the stars and headed for her command ship. The UES Retribution, humanity's newest and most powerful vessel, would lead the final assault. Its name was not chosen by accident. The Galactic Trade Consortium had betrayed humanity's trust and murdered millions of innocent people. Now they would face the consequences of underestimating the species they had tried to exterminate. The fleet was coming, and there would be no mercy for those who had shown none. The reckoning arrives. The Vega system had been peaceful for over 2 centuries. The massive blue-white star provided energy for the Galactic Trade Consortium's most important worlds, and the surrounding space was considered the safest in known space. Consortium defense fleets patrolled lazily through the system, more concerned with preventing smuggling than actual military threats. Prime Executor Zethkar stood in his crystalline palace on Vega Prime, reviewing reports from the human colonies. The pest control operation had been a complete success. 3 worlds cleansed, 7 million of the breeding vermin eliminated, and the surviving human leadership too shocked to mount any meaningful response. The human government on Earth has issued protests through diplomatic channels, reported his aide, Sub-Executor Coral. They demand an investigation into the mining accidents. Zethkar's crystalline form vibrated with what passed for laughter among his species. Let them protest. By the time they realize the truth, we will have moved on to Phase 4. The remaining human worlds will suffer similar accidents until the infestation is completely eliminated. The palace's alarm system suddenly activated, filling the chamber with harsh, harmonic pulses. Zethkar's form shifted to a darker hue, indicating confusion and irritation. What is the meaning of this disturbance? A communications officer rushed into the chamber, his crystal matrix flickering with panic. Prime Executor, long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace distortions at the edge of the system. Something large is approaching. How large? Zethkar demanded. Unknown, sir. The displacement readings are unlike anything in our databases. It's as if an entire fleet is jumping into our space simultaneously. Zethkar moved to the central command display, his confidence beginning to waver. The consortium controlled the system absolutely. No other species had the military capability to threaten Vega Prime, and certainly not the primitive humans with their tiny defense fleet. The display activated, showing the outer system where long-range sensors were focused. For a moment, space appeared empty. Then reality tore open in hundreds of places simultaneously. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace, like a force of nature. 847 ships of war appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapons that the consortium had never seen before. At their head, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything in the consortium fleet broadcast. A single message. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet, by order of the Human Colonial Authority. The Galactic Trade Consortium is hereby charged with genocide, violation of interstellar law, and crimes against sentient life. You have 1 hour to surrender all military assets and prepare for war crimes tribunals. The message was broadcast on every frequency, in every language known to the galactic community. Across the Vega system, alien species that had never heard of Admiral Chen or the United Earth Fleet scrambled to understand what they were witnessing. Zethkar stared at the display in disbelief. This is impossible. The humans have perhaps 100 ships total. Where did this fleet come from? Sub-Executor Coral was frantically accessing intelligence files. Prime Executor, our records show no indication of human military buildup on this scale. This fleet, ... It's larger than our entire defense force. Then the records are wrong, Zethkar snarled. Activate all defense platforms. Signal the fleet to attack formation. We will crush this human insolence and complete our cleansing operation. The consortium response was swift, but inadequate. Their defense fleet consisted of 200 ships designed primarily for patrol and merchant protection. They had never faced a military force designed specifically for war. Against advanced alien technology, Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the UES Retribution as the consortium fleet moved to intercept them. Captain Rivera stood beside her, monitoring tactical displays that showed the enemy formation. They're moving in standard patrol patterns, Rivera reported. No indication they understand what they're facing. Show them, Chen ordered. The first demonstration was swift and decisive. The consortium's primary defense station, a massive orbital fortress that had protected Vega Prime for over a century, simply vanished. The human fleet's new weapons technology, based on the biological data Dr. Vasquez had analyzed, created a harmonic resonance that shattered the station's crystalline structure. At the molecular level, the fortress didn't explode. It dissolved, its crystalline components breaking down into their basic elements in a process that took exactly 12 minutes. The effect was visible across the entire system, a clear message that the human fleet possessed weapons beyond consortium. Understanding, panic spread through the consortium command structure. Fleet commanders who had been confident in their superiority minutes before now faced an enemy that could destroy their strongest defenses without visible effort. "This is impossible," Zethkar whispered, watching the fortress dissolution on his displays. "No species possesses such technology." Dr. Vasquez's voice came through the communication system, speaking directly to the consortium leadership. "We learned from the best teachers. Every piece of technology you gave us, every medical device, every scanner, we studied and improved upon. You thought you were studying us, but we were studying you." The consortium fleet attempted to engage the human ships in conventional combat, but the battle was over before it truly began. Human vessels moved with precision and coordination that spoke of years of training and preparation. Their weapons systems were specifically designed to exploit Vorthok weaknesses, and their defenses were built to counter every known consortium technology. Within 30 minutes, the entire consortium defense fleet was disabled or destroyed. The surviving ships broadcast surrender signals, their crews too shocked to continue fighting. General Thompson's ground forces began landing on consortium worlds throughout the system, meeting minimal resistance. The client species that had served the Vorthok for generations offered no opposition to the human occupation. Many actually welcomed the liberation from consortium rule. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking down at Vega Prime as its orbital defenses fell silent. The crystalline cities on the planet's surface glowed with their own light, beautiful and serene. It was hard to believe that the beings who lived there had coldly planned the extinction of humanity. Admiral Rivera reported, "We're receiving surrender signals from all major consortium installations. The client species are requesting protection under human authority, and Zethkar still refusing to surrender. He's barricaded in his palace with the remaining consortium leadership." Chen nodded. "Then we finished this personally." The assault on Zethkar's palace was swift and decisive. Human soldiers, equipped with armor designed to operate in the crystalline environment, moved through the structure with practiced efficiency. The Vorthok guards offered token resistance, but they were facing soldiers who had trained specifically for this moment. Chen found Zethkar in his central chamber, surrounded by the remaining consortium leadership. The prime executor's crystalline form had shifted to a deep red, indicating rage and desperation. "You have destroyed everything we built," Zethkar accused. "Centuries of galactic peace ended by your primitive violence." "Peace?" Chen's voice was cold. "You murdered 7 million human beings. You planned to exterminate our entire species. You call that peace?" "You are an infestation," Zethkar replied. a plague that spreads across worlds, consuming resources, disrupting order. We were protecting the galaxy from your expansion. Chen stepped closer, her weapon trained on the alien leader. You were protecting your profits. You saw humanity as a threat to your monopoly on galactic trade, so you decided to eliminate us before we could compete. And now you have replaced us with your own tyranny. No, Chen said firmly. We've replaced you with justice. The client species you oppressed for generations are now free to choose their own path. The worlds you exploited can keep their resources. The galaxy is better off without the consortium's version of peace. The trial of the consortium leadership was broadcast across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species came to witness the proceedings, many seeing humans for the first time. The evidence of genocide was overwhelming, and the sentences were swift and final. Admiral Chen addressed the galactic community from the captured consortium capital. Let this be a lesson to any species that considers humanity weak or disposable. We are not conquerors, but we will not be victims. We offer trade, cooperation, and friendship to those who deal with us honestly. But to those who threaten our people, our worlds, or our future, we offer only one response. The human fleet remained in the Vega system for 6 months, helping to establish new governments on the former consortium worlds and ensuring that the transition to freedom was peaceful. The client species, freed from consortium oppression, proved eager to establish diplomatic relations with humanity. Dr. Vasquez established research stations throughout the system, studying consortium technology and sharing the benefits with humanity's new allies. The biological data that had been collected about humans was destroyed, and new medical technologies were developed that benefited all species. General Thompson worked with local security forces to establish peacekeeping operations and ensure that the former consortium worlds remained stable. The transition was remarkably smooth, as most of the client species had been waiting for an opportunity to break free from Vorthok control. When the human fleet finally departed the Vega system, they left behind a changed galaxy. The Galactic Trade Consortium was gone, replaced by a new confederation of free worlds. Humanity had gone from being victims of genocide to being the liberators of an entire star system. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The same ingenuity that had allowed them to survive on a dangerous world, the same cooperation that had helped them reach the stars, the same determination that had carried them through countless challenges, now made them the most formidable military force in known space. The consortium had tried to exterminate humanity, believing them to be weak and primitive. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the U.S. Retribution as the fleet jumped back into hyperspace, heading for home. The war was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning. The species that had once begged for scraps from the consortium's table now commanded the respect of every civilization in known space. The betrayal had been complete, but so had the victory. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.